step towards a healthier, happier you. Call us at 865-539-1776 to book your appointment today, or just visit our website at knoxvillesmiles.com.
Blackford Veterinary Surgery Referral specializes in surgeries not regularly performed by your pet's general veterinarian. They're currently accepting referrals from vets all across the country. With their newly renovated state-of-the-art surgery center and highly trained staff, clients can rely on professional and thorough care. If your vet says that your pet needs surgery or rehab, ask for a referral to Blackford Vet and let them get your best friend back on its feet. Located conveniently in West Knoxville. For more information, visit blackfordvetsurgery.com.
It's the Chase! It's the Chase! Live 1 to 3, Monday through Friday on Fan Run Radio, Fox Sports Knoxville. Listen to Chase and his friends on WKGN. It's the Chase! It's the Scruffy City! Listen to his friends, and his friends are on WKGN. I'm always taking your calls on the Tennessee Vols. It's the Chase! It's the Chase! It's the Chase!
It's the Chase right here on Fan Run Radio, Fox Sports Knoxville. My name is Chase Thomas, coming to you live from the White Claw Hard Seltzer Studios right here in Knoxville, Tennessee. Fan Run Radio, Fox Sports Knoxville. You can listen to us every day, Monday through Friday, 1 to 3, right here on the Fan Run Radio app. It's free. Download it today. You can watch us on our YouTube channel, streaming all day long over there on Fan Run Fox Sports Knoxville. You can also listen to us on WKGN 105.7 FM, AM 1340. All kinds of ways that you can be a part of this very show. It is Friday, so you know what that means. Omaha Productions and Rocky Top Insider Zone. Jack Foster is here. He's got a metal hat, a metal T-shirt.
That's right.
It's a metal Friday.
All metal, baby. Bringing the attitude today on a Friday. But great to be here. Back after a week hiatus. Didn't do last week, so good to be back in the White Claw Hard Seltzer Studio with you.
Well, it's good to have you back, my friend. You're way on business. Jack does speaking engagements, all kinds of stuff. Jack Foster's a big deal here in East
Fly
Tennessee.
me out across the country, talk to classes. You know the vibe.
There you go. Absolutely. Well, Jack, it's great to have you back on here. You can also be a part of the show. Call us at 865-966-3435. Throughout the course of today's show, if you want to get involved and speak your mind on Tennessee football, recruiting, we'll talk some baseball as well, along with some Memphis Grizzlies talk with Bryson Wright. We'll talk to Lindsey Crosby of Braves Today about the Braves' big sweep over the New York Mets. Their playoff odds jumped to like 35% after this three-game sweep against the Braves, or the Mets. So we'll talk to Lindsey about that. But we have to kick things off here. Tennessee baseball, Jack Foster, our baseball guy with us today. We have to start here. Where has Tennessee, in your estimation, done well in the early part of the portal? Because it's not done. We'll see on a couple other big targets right now. We'll see on Henry Ford. We'll see on the Cal shortstop. We saw Aiden Robbins, Seton Hall, outfielder. He's at Texas now. The Maryland shortstop, he's at A&M as of yesterday, I believe. That big-time prospect or big-time player from the Terps is off the board. But where has Tennessee done well in the portal thus far in your estimation?
I think it's done well just with the arms it's gotten. And, you know, they got two arms in the MIT transfer and the UNC Asheville transfer who are likely headed for the big leagues and won't make it to campus. But both are good players. But you look at the guys who you'd expect to make it to campus, of course, who will, Bo Rudy and Brady Frederick from ETSU, SoCon Pitcher of the Year. I like those two options. One, a potential starter. One, a surefire bullpen arm in the Kennesaw State kid, Bo Rudy. I like the guys Tennessee has gotten in. I like the fact that they're definitely not done. And I like the prospects, you know, the potential with the guys that Tennessee is looking at, especially the Rutgers arm, Landon Mack. But my favorite land Tennessee has made so far in the transfer portal is Garrett Wright, the Bowling Green utility man who had 20 doubles a season ago. I think Tennessee lacked some just contact hitting this past year. You know, it felt really power or bust at times. There were guys who did well in that department, certainly Gavin Keelan down the stretch. But to bring in a guy like Garrett Wright who has pop but also is just a really good hitter and elite defensive player, reigning defensive player of the year in his conference, can play behind the plate, can play in the outfield, which is where Tennessee will likely have a larger need for bodies, is a great addition here.
Garrett Wright is the most interesting one to me thus far because they're also in the mix for another Bowling Green guy, I believe, as of right now. He's not off the board, correct? He's a two-way player.
The guy they're looking at now, the two-way player? Yes.
Okay, so there's clearly a connection. They're in on the Falcons. Tony V is in on what the Falcons are doing in the MAC.
Which is weird because Tennessee played Bowling Green 2 seasons ago. Here in Lindsey Nelson Stadium.
Did Wright play in that game? Was he a factor?
I would imagine so. I mean, actually, I'll look. I don't know.
But Wright, I think it's kind of funny when you brought in Wright. I think a lot of people assumed, okay, that's your Cannon Peebles replacement. What does this mean for Stone Lawless? Like, he's probably going to be your catcher. Not so fast, my friend. It seems like you talk about him being versatile, and with the 34-man roster limit coming, and we don't know if it's going to be how much of the grandfathered in stuff is going to be a factor. I do not envy the position that Tony and Ross and Josh and company are in right now and this fall, because you really don't know your number and you don't know when you have to be at that number. It's all very confusing and I'm sure very stressful and frustrating for this Tennessee baseball staff. But Garrett Wright, I just don't know where he's going to ultimately play. You need to be versatile for a lot of these guys because you just don't know how many bodies you're going to have. So the more guys you bring in the portal or even in the high school ranks who can do multiple things, the better for Tennessee, because you just don't know, not only just because you might lose a lot of these guys to the draft next month, but also because the numbers are just gonna shrink and you're gonna have less guys to rely on if you get hit with the injury bug a little bit. That you need to have as much versatility as humanly possible, and you do have a lot of that in this roster. I think Chris Newstrom can play a lot of spots. Jay Abernathy can play a lot of spots. So Levi Clark right now we would assume can play a lot of spots. So they do have some versatility there, but versatility is gonna be the name of the game with a 34-man roster limit.
Yes, it definitely is, and that's kind of been Tony Vitello's MO in the transfer portal and just his coaching staff in general. It's bring guys in who are talented, who you like, who fit your mold, and then figure out the puzzle later. Put the pieces where they should go as the season goes along, and lots of times Tennessee doesn't have that figured out by opening day. So you saw it last year, right? Andrew Fisher was not projected to be a first baseman, yet he played there the entire season. That's just the way it fit, and it fit down the stretch that Keelan was back at shortstop, where he was at Louisville. So, yeah, that's just what Tennessee is going to do. It's going to bring players in that it likes, that Tony likes, that Frank likes, that Josh likes, and it's going to figure out where guys need to go later on. Yeah. Also, if you're curious, Garrett Wright, 0 for 2, game 1 of the series, did not play in games 2 or 3.
Not built for LNS. If that
DJ Newman played in all 3, though. DH,
okay,
so.
There you go. Where do they... how bad do they need the Cal shortstop? Because he's taken multiple visits. He was an early guy. They got on campus.
Yeah.
I don't really know where the need is ultimately, because Manny Marin, not in the portal yet. Ariel Antigua, not in the portal yet. And we're assuming Jay Abernathy, probably an infield guy. Mm-hmm. We're assuming Levi Clark is a first base option. You're trying to figure out if Newstrom is a third baseman on next year's team. It seems like that's a possibility too. So I don't know how much it matters in terms of okay, we need an infielder or we need an outfielder, because some of these guys can just play different spots. But it seems like the Cal kid if you're bringing him in, you're bringing him to play shortstop, exactly. Right? Or third, Middle infield.
Middle infield. I would say second or short. And you'd think that Abernathy would play second, so naturally that leaves short. I wouldn't necessarily completely rule out the possibility of Tennessee getting some infielders and then Jay just playing center. He can do it, and he's quick. But I think he's just more natural as a second baseman, and he's going to be a significant piece of this team. So why not play him where he's most comfortable? But, yes, if Advincula were to commit to Tennessee, it feels like Manny would just run it back at third base, which was fine. He was not bad. The only position Manny had woes at was second. He struggled at second base, which was kind of odd because he's a great infielder and a great defensive player. It was just a little peculiar that he did that those series he played there, but I think Manny's perfectly fine either spot left side of the infield. As it sits right now, I project Marin to end up starting at short. As much as I love Ariel Antigua and don't think it would be a bad idea to play Ariel at short and Manny at third, I know that's a hot take to some. It feels like the more likely scenario would be Manny at short and figure it out at third, whether that's someone playing it for the first time or a relatively green player there in a Chris Newstrom, or maybe Blake Grimmer takes a step, something along those lines.
Grimmer you kind of forget, and then Jackson Walker, who has been pretty good in, what is that league called? It's in Tri-Cities. What is the Appy League?
Yeah, the Appy League.
So
Colby Backus terrorizes the Appy League like on a yearly basis.
He's also in the portal.
Doughboys. Yeah, he's gone.
He's gone.
Yeah, sad.
But we'll see. Like Jackson Walker is just kind of like on the outside looking in. You talk about Blake Grimmer, outside looking in, but it wouldn't be the craziest thing if he factors into the lineup next year.
No, I mean,
another versatile guy.
Right, and he's a guy with a ton of pop. I don't know how good defensively he is. He made some solid plays at third when he got the reps and midweek opportunities, but this is a guy who can hit. Just hasn't had a ton of reps.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting to see ultimately where Tennessee goes in terms of the Cal kid, and that will clarify some stuff in the infield in a major way. If you land him, you kind of know.
Manny's running it back.
Yes. Like, we kind of know where we stand on a lot of this. But I just kind of wonder, the weekend starter part of it, Tennessee, they need at least one veteran weekend starter. They need one. But the one guy it seems like they're in the best shape with is a righty in Mac from Rutgers.
Right. And the guys they've gotten are righties.
Yes. So if there's not any big-time lefties there's not a Liam Doyle just out there, you might not have a choice. Like, I know Tony and Frank and the staff loves having lefty, righty. They love having that versatility. They might not have a choice. And I guess it was, 22 was the last time they had straight righties?
Yeah, yes. And it was amazing. Beam, Burns, and Chase. Yeah. Dolander, right. So it's not the end of the world if Tennessee doesn't have a left-hander. It's fine, as long as these guys are good, and I think we would expect them to be. I'm most curious about Krenzel because Tegan Kuntz, it just felt like it was an odd end to the season, and the way he, didn't have a ton of trust from the coaching staff, but he also just didn't pitch very well. The breaking ball wasn't there when it needed to be, and then he just didn't pitch in the NCAA tournament, which I don't blame Tennessee for doing that, but I have high hopes for Kuntz. I think he can live up to his potential, and it's going to be probably his final year of college ball, unless he just completely underwhelms and then transfers. I think he would play another year, but Kuntz and Krenzel's the one I'm most curious about, and then a transfer will probably, all but surely be that third starter. So we'll just have to see what shakes out here.
Yeah, and I think Krenzel showed a lot down the stretch. You obviously being a Loy boy, it's been a week, or almost a week, week, since he entered the portal. I just kind of wonder if he's going to look back at this because of how the portal is playing out for Tennessee in the starting pitching market, where, man, if you went into next year and went into the winter competing for one of those weekend spots and knowing how much Frank and Tony love having that lefty-righty versatility, that even if it was uncertain you were going to be a weekend starter in 26, man, you might only have to beat out somebody like Krenzel or, let's say, the Mac, the starter from Rutgers, whoever. Like, you might have to beat out one guy.
Frederick, yeah.
Yeah, and Frederick, too. So it just kind of is one of those where I'm like, I wonder if you look back on it, like, I overthought this one. I should have just, given it one more year, because I think Loy would have been in a good spot. And because remember, too, just because even if you start out in the bullpen or something in 26 for Tennessee, if you're Loy, we've seen over the last couple of years, that does not mean that's where you're going to finish. Andrew Lindsay became a household Friday name, and he was not the Friday guy right out of the gate from Charlotte. So to look at that and go, Stamos, no one had Stamos being your Friday night.
Right.
Xander on Sunday.
Yeah,
Xander.
Stamos, while, yes, you're right, Jay, he was an opener. He wasn't an actual starter.
Yeah.
You're still getting the ball in a first-game setting. You started against Florida State in the College World Series.
Yeah, it didn't go very well.
I promise you, if every single time, if the first couple of times Stamos had that opener gig, if he was 1, 2, 3 on 10 pitches, Tennessee would have rode him more. He just wasn't, honestly, that great.
Yeah.
It just, Kazi had this block to where he couldn't start games, at least presumably that was the case, It's pretty evident.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was a weird thing, but it worked. Love
Yeah,
Kazi. Kazi games were electric because Kazi, he cared about our time. On Friday night, he was like, I'm going to give up a pop home run, and then I'm mowing down 7 straight Ks. And we're getting an hour and a half through my starts. It's suddenly the 7th inning, and it's like 8:20. You're like, fantastic stuff by A.J. Kazi. Looking out for us on a Friday night.
Loved his windup, too.
Great windup. Well, you'll have multiple guys with that windup next year.
Binky.
Binky's gone.
Well, he's gone now.
Big man.
It's Frederick has that sidearm.
Frederick, yeah.
And Edmondson does, too, right? The Asheville kid? I think he's a side guy, right?
Sidewinder.
Yeah.
Is Frederick
he won't
going to
be
be a first starter, or is he just going to be a bullpen guy?
Jack would know better than me.
We'll see. I think he'll have an opportunity to start.
Okay.
It's obviously not a slam dunk. The only one I would say is a slam dunk right now is Teagan.
Yeah.
I would say Cybert has a pretty good chance of being a starter, too.
Yes, he's the ultimate wild card because you don't know what to really expect. He's coming back from injury, one of the highest rated recruits from Tennessee in that awesome 24 cycle. So
he's probably in the AJ Russell zone where it's like they're going to be careful with him and he's going to be like a long bullpen guy. I've seen this movie before.
I would be surprised if he ends up having a starting role, but he's a pitcher that I think no one would be shocked if he pitches a lot of valuable innings for Tennessee next year.
I love it. Coming out of the break here, we'll continue our Tennessee conversation. We'll talk about old friend, boss of Jack Foster, Greg McElroy, some Auburn love for him on 2025. ESPN's Reese Davis revealing his top 5 college football quarterbacks going into 2026, and a whole lot more here in hour number 1 right here on The Chase. Stick with us. It's Fan Run Radio, Fox Sports Knoxville, 105.7 FM, 1340 AM. Download that free Fan Run Radio app and listen wherever, whenever, 1 to 3, Monday through Friday. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this.
For the fans, by the fans, this is Fan Run Radio, Knoxville.
Where are the best ribs in the Volunteer State? Rickard Ridge. Who has the best barbecue catering packages in East Tennessee? Rickard Ridge. And where is the most beautiful setting to enjoy a meal with family and friends? Rickard Ridge. Rickard Ridge Barbecue. Just a quick ride up I-75, take exit 134, hang a right, and Rickard Ridge is on your left, just inside Cove Lake State Park.
Hi, I'm Dr. Mike Costa at Knoxville Smiles. Here at Knoxville Smiles, we're all about making it easier for you to see the dentist. That's why we're now open until 7 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays. If going to the dentist in the morning or during normal business hours doesn't fit your busy schedule, come see us a little later. Call 865-539-1776 to schedule your appointment, or just visit us online at knoxvillesmiles.com. Smile brighter with Knoxville Smiles.
Ready to launch your career? Axel Logistics is a leading third-party logistics company where excellence is an energy. With an award-winning culture, Axel proves that positive outcomes come from a positive environment and a work hard, play hard mentality. At Axel, the drive for success is infectious. And with an uncapped commission structure, hard work isn't just noticed, it's rewarded. For those with big goals and even bigger dreams, Axel Logistics is the place to start your career.
Good morning and happy Friday, everybody. It's a beautiful day ahead of us today. Finally, some sunshine, dry weather. Oh, and it's the first day of summer. We start the morning off with some patchy, dense fog, temperatures in the 60s. We'll climb into the upper 80s with a heat index value right around 90. This forecast is brought to you by Master Battery. Listen, they've got the best prices in town guaranteed. They've been here for more than 40 years, and they have what you need when you need it. Give them a call today, 865-947-1500. From the East Tennessee Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Mike Witcher for Fox Sports Knoxville, Fan Run Radio.
Your tax refund belongs to you, not an identity thief. Over $6 billion in tax refunds were flagged by the IRS for possible identity theft last year. If you're in a bind this tax season, LifeLock can help. They monitor and alert you to identity threats you'd miss on your own, even if you're careful with your personal information. And if you do become a victim of tax-related identity fraud, LifeLock has U.S.-based restoration specialists ready to help solve your identity theft issue. Plus, all LifeLock plans are backed by the $1 Million Protection Package, meaning LifeLock will reimburse you up to the limits of your plan if you lose money due to identity theft. Let LifeLock help protect your financial info, so all you have to worry about is what you do with your tax refund. Go to LifeLock.com, save up to 25% off your first year. The promo code is HERD, promo code HERD, to save up to 25% off your first year. LifeLock.com. Identity theft protection starts here.
Yee-haw! I've been hooting and hollering ever since I started betting with the VIP Play app. VIP Play has more than 200 leagues, every bet type you can imagine, live betting and live hosts, all with 24/7 support from real live people when you need them. Start betting better with the VIP Play app today.
Don't be a better, be a better with VIP Play today.
Download VIP Play today or head to VIPPlayApp.com. Make sure you use the promo code FANRUN to take advantage of their welcome bonus and so they know that we sent you. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-8899-789. Must be 21 or older and located in Tennessee to bet.
Yeah, it's another day, but what kind of day is it really? A day of doom scrolling? Laundry day? Nah, it's a White Claw day. Light and refreshing tasting, uniquely cold way filtered. There's an iconic flavor for everyone. So grab a pack, grab your friends. Make the most of each day with those who matter most. When you're together with White Claw, every day is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. You just gotta grab it. White Claw. Grab life by the claw. Please drink responsibly. Hard seltzer with flavors. White Claw Seltzer Works, Chicago, Illinois.
We're back here on The Chase on a Friday with Omaha Productions and Rocky Top Insiders Jack Foster, as he'll be here every Friday this summer right here on The Chase with Chase Thomas. That's me. We'll continue our conversation right here with Greg McElroy. Jack, you are the producer of Always College Football with Greg McElroy, over there at Omaha Productions. And Greg was talking about Auburn in 2025, where he said, quote, "I love it. I thought last year they were going to have a winning season, so I've been burned before, but I look at where they've immediately upgraded their roster, a starting quarterback," obviously talking about Jackson Arnold. "I thought Peyton Thorne was a little underrated last year, but at the end of the day, too many mistakes from a few too many chances with the football. A couple of those interceptions led to two losses." I understand part of the bullishness on Auburn, and this is something that we've talked about over the last couple of weeks, that what will happen this fall in the SEC is one of Florida, Auburn, and I'll throw Oklahoma in this mix. Mm-hmm. One of those three will break through and have the kind of special season where their over-under is 6.5, 7.5, and they're pushing for 10 right there at the playoff doorstep. Like, they'll, even with Oklahoma and Florida's schedules, one of them, along with Auburn, will overachieve. Will break through, whether it's Hugh Freeze and the Auburn Tigers, whether it's Brent Venables, Ben Arbuckle, and John Mateer, whether it's DJ Lagway and Billy Napier. One of those three wild card teams with low-ish season win total projections will break through. Outside of the ones that we know of, which is, I think, Alabama, which is Texas, which is Georgia. Like, those are the three still at 9.5. It's hard to see a rough season from any of those three in 2025. I think Alabama's going to be the best team in the SEC this year, for the record.
Is that a you're not as high on Arch?
We'll talk about Arch in a second, like because Reese Davis talked about Arch Manning, and I have a bone to pick with this. The Arch dialogue, I'll save it because I have some Arch takes.
Okay, sounds good.
It's just very frustrating where we're at. The Arch Manning discourse this year is going to be very, very nauseating very early on. And I'll get into why I think that is, but we still have some time to get there. But what do you think about Greg and him being really high on Auburn going into 25 as a bounce-back candidate?
Yeah, it's funny because he mentions it in this quote you pulled, but he was so huge on Auburn last year. Had him in his preseason top 25 towards the end of it, but still. And, it's a lot of the same looks for Auburn as a year ago. These guys are just a year older. You look at some of their best players. Cam Coleman, a really good receiver, of course, not running it back at the quarterback spot, have Jackson Darnold, excuse me. But, it feels like a similar team just with the quarterback upgrade. And you talked about those three schools, Florida, Auburn, and Oklahoma. All three have not new quarterbacks in Florida's case, but three quarterbacks that are entering the starter that weren't the starter entering the school a year ago. I think Mateer and Lagway are more hyped than Jackson Arnold, but let's not forget Jackson Arnold was an elite recruit for Oklahoma and was hyped going into last year. If he could reach that potential, then you have three potentially really dynamic quarterbacks in the SEC. I think whoever comes out of that group of three as that true breakout team is just going to be dependent on quarterback play, because I think Florida and Auburn have solid offensive lines. I think both will have solid defenses. Oklahoma, I'm a little bit more suspect on changing defensive play callers to Brent. We'll see what that looks like. But, yeah, Auburn as a team I think has potential. It's just, will the quarterback be good to great? And, of course, the turnovers were what killed them in just inexcusable losses last year.
Yeah, he also says at the end of the quote from this On3 article talking about this, he said, quote, so yes, I think Auburn will have a winning season this year. I'd be surprised if it's not 8 or 9 wins, which is high. If he's not surprised if it's 9 wins, I would be very surprised if Auburn got to 9 wins.
Okay, so their 4 toughest games are Bama and Georgia. Both are on the Plains.
Mm-hmm.
But then they go to Oklahoma, to A&M. I think those are their 4 toughest games. So really it's splitting those 2 road games because I think it would be a massive upset, of course, if Auburn was able to win either the Georgia or Bama game, even though it's at home. You have Arkansas, Vandy, Kentucky, Mizzou. I just don't think any of those teams will be that great this year. Arkansas and Missouri could play spoiler in games, but really those 4 games I mentioned with those 2, Oklahoma and A&M, being the 2 you look at to say, hey, can Auburn get to 9 wins? Could they get to 10 if they win both? Or will they be an 8-win ball club?
The most Auburn thing ever this year would be Auburn beating Georgia in a huge upset in middle October and then losing again to Diego Pavia on the road to Vanderbilt in early November. That's the most Auburn season possible, and I could absolutely see something like that because they gave Georgia all kinds of problems 2 years ago at home. Like, it took a Brock Bowers Herculean effort.
I was at that game.
Were you?
Yeah.
Wow.
That was a fun game.
I mean, you don't know when it's played at Jordan-Hare. Like, they could do anything there. Like, no matter how bad Auburn is, like, such a crazy environment.
Their offense does seem different, though, this year. Like, they have Coleman. They have Singleton from Georgia Tech. I don't know. I think Jackson Arnold, like, I feel like part of the reason why it didn't work at Oklahoma was, like, you're playing for a head coach that is defensive-minded. I don't know how much of a factor that necessarily plays, but, like, Venables is a defense guy, you know? And you're playing for a defensive-minded coach, like, then you go to, you know, Auburn. Like, it might work out over there. I don't know. I mean.
Yeah, I think that's a possibility. I mean, the last we saw of Jackson Arnold here in East Tennessee forced him out of the game because he was imploding so bad in Norman in that game against Tennessee. He threw that nasty pick to Jermod McCoy where Jermod was just on an island and he just threw it right to him. I mean, it was a really rough outing. And then he had basically that crazy game against Alabama where they win and stunned everybody around college football because his stats were hilarious in that win. They were basically just like playing some 1912 football.
Well, that was more the defense, though,
yeah.
right? I mean, Alabama only scored like 3 points, you know.
But I'm saying
there were like multiple picks too.
Well, speaking of multiple picks, Peyton Thorne last year just throwing the game away last year in multiple instances.
Cal versus
was
versus Oklahoma, right?
Oklahoma was
Oklahoma.
the one, the bad one. But yeah, like I look at this and I know it's going to be one of the 3. I will say I would be very surprised if one of those big 3, whether it's Auburn, they're probably the least likely to me of Oklahoma, Auburn, and Florida. Florida's the most likely to me as the breakout team of that 7.5, 6.5 projected win total. But yeah, so he went 9-11 for 68 yards against Alabama in that win. Fantastic stuff in that 24-3 win against the Tide. But I'm not a Jackson Arnold believer. I don't think it's the other problem to me, if I'm Hugh Freeze, is not only that I just say, like, I know the expectation is I've got to make a bowl game this year. Year 3 at Auburn is wild, but I love just setting that precedent. It's like, look, I understand. I've got to get to 6 wins this year because I haven't reached 6 wins in my previous 2 years at Auburn. The problem is you lost a lot of goodwill because you ran it back with Peyton Thorne, knowing what you had in Peyton Thorne after year 1. Like, it's kind of one of those things where you get a whiff, like, it's the portal, it's year 1, you didn't know what you had, you were just trying to, hey, Peyton Thorne was actually pretty solid at Michigan State. Like, that, to miss on Peyton Thorne in 2023, it's fine. To run it back when you miss a bowl game and you're at a place like Auburn with the resources that Auburn has, you don't get back-to-back mulligans like that. It was a bold move to run it back with Peyton Thorne, and it backfired. So now you're kind of on the hot seat in year 3, and you're putting your, I guess, all your eggs in the Jackson Arnold basket, where there were good quarterbacks available in the portal this year. Remember, Miller Moss, he's at Louisville. He looks like he's someone who could be a top 5 quarterback in college football this year. You look over at Darian Mensah, who had a fantastic year at Tulane, not far from you. You could have gone after Darian Mensah. You could have gone after Fernando Mendoza, who is at IU and might be leading the Hoosiers back to the CFB. He was productive at Cal. We have seen positive play from Fernando Mendoza. Like John Mateer, whatever, I don't really know how he's gonna acclimate to the SEC grind. I mean, he was really, really up and down, a lot more up and down than Cam Ward, and I don't like the Cam Ward comparisons because I'm like, Cam Ward was a lot more polished when he arrived at Miami than what we've seen from John Mateer. But I just think Auburn and the way Hugh Freeze, as an offensive genius, has handled that room is just so bizarre to me. It's a very bizarre situation how he's handled quarterback and to place a lot of his stock. Because if they go 4-8 and Jackson Arnold implodes, and even if Deuce Knight comes in and shows some stuff, I don't see how you run it back for year 4 at a place like Auburn if he's not looking like an 8 or 9 win team. So part of it with Greg is like, I think Greg is like, you got to get to 8 or 9 wins, right? Like, you have the roster. You have Cam Coleman. You have Eric Singleton. We've invested a lot of resources. The one area that we haven't invested or haven't invested correctly is at quarterback, and that's something you were really great at Ole Miss and Liberty. So it's just very bizarre how Hugh Freeze has handled the quarterback room, because it's just, I would not stick my maybe potentially last SEC head coaching job on Jackson Arnold at year 3 at Auburn. Like, you're putting a lot of faith in that kid.
You just have to be right.
Yes.
I mean, you have to be correct here. It's kind of like a NFL coach on its last leg making a draft pick for a quarterback high. It's like, you got to be right here. You got to be confident and correct that Jackson Arnold can be that guy that he was recruited to be. And, we'll see if it happens. But, I'm with you as far as going back to those 3 teams. Mateer is a question mark to me in a little bit of a way, and I just don't trust Venables as much. And while I don't think Napier's a great coach, I think Lagway's a dude. So I would be highest on Florida of those 3. And Florida has a good roster, too.
Dallas Wilson looks like a dude out of the gate, true freshman 5-star. I mean, they've loaded up. I mean, Cormani McClain as a walk-on, former 5-star coming in back home. Like, Florida's loaded. They are loaded on the pass rush side of things. Like, they had so many pass rushers that were elite that they weren't able to keep them all. They had to let 2 go to the portal because they just had so many guys on that side of the ball that I just think they're going to get the quarterback, and Florida's going to be really good. I don't want that to be the case. I don't want Alabama to be the best team in the SEC, but I just, look, I call balls and strikes on this, and I think Alabama and Florida are going to be really good in 2025. So, final thing here before we go to break. Reese Davis of ESPN and College Game Day, he released his top 5 preseason college football quarterbacks. He has 1 Arch Manning, 2 Garrett Nussmeier, 3 Cade Klubnik, 4 Lenora Sellers, 5 Miller Moss. It's time for my Arch Manning rant, Jack.
All right, let's hear it. You got to remember, I'm a company man. So,
look, it's not about Arch. Let me be perfectly clear. This has nothing to do with Arch Manning. This has everything to do with the conversation around Arch Manning. Okay. You cannot put him as a preseason number 1 college football quarterback and compare him to people like Nussmeier or Cade Klubnik, who have 3 years of anecdotal evidence of a rise of Cade Klubnik, where I think it's hard to not put Cade Klubnik as your preseason number 1 quarterback in the country. Based on our last bit, like what we've last seen of all these quarterbacks, Cade Klubnik has the best, I think, potential of any of those guys to hit that final Heisman-type ceiling of any of the returning quarterbacks. Like, Cade Klubnik has shown, like, what he did against Texas in that final game was big time. Like, Cade Klubnik has made the leap from what we first saw. I mean, remember the Orange Bowl against Tennessee, where that's not even the same world, the same universe.
The game versus Georgia, too.
Yeah.
Week 1. He has improved so much since that game. Cause
yeah.
He was terrible.
He's an elite quarterback now at Clemson.
No, he's fully developed.
Arch Manning, we have no idea what Arch Manning's going to be at Texas. We thought Quinn Ewers was going to be a absolute stud at Texas. We thought Quinn Ewers was going to be a Heisman-type guy going into last year. Quinn Ewers was a 7th-round guy. And that's not all. That doesn't mean that Arch Manning is going to fall on his face or Arch Manning is not going to be this. Texas has a very high floor. We'll see. The offensive line, they're replacing a lot on both sides of the ball in the trenches, replacing some serious talent at receiver. We'll see with Ryan Wingo and company there, and more. They should be okay. But a lot of stuff to replace. A lot of turnover there a little bit because of the NFL draft. But the way we're talking about Arch, to me, is just going to be kind of nauseating because I think there's so much pressure on this kid right out of the gate. He hasn't played a snap. He sat for 2 years. And our flashes, like, the coolest thing about Arch, I think, to me, is, like, that dude's going to lower his shoulder. There's going to be some – I'm not saying he's going to be Tim Tebow, But that man is not afraid of contact, and he's going to be very different than what you saw from Peyton and Eli from a physicality standpoint. Like, he is a dual threat quarterback. Right. Arch Manning is going to lower his shoulder. He is not afraid to hit people, and that's something we saw in those packages last year. But I mean, can we wait on Arch Manning? Can we not include him in these lists because we just have no idea what we're going to see from Arch in 2025? And I just think the conversation around him is just going to be really, really frustrating because people just have these crazy expectations because he sat for 2 years, because it's Texas, because of the pedigree, that no one's going to have a rational take on Arch Manning all year long.
It's unfair.
Yes.
Yeah, it's unfair to put that kind of pressure on someone like Arch and to say these things and put him number one. I mean, maybe I could see a path to, someone putting him 6, 7, 8. Like, fine. There's not a lot of proven guys at the quarterback position in college football returning, so whatever. If you want to put him 6 through 9, sure. Even 5, like, whatever.
Or just, number one new quarterback.
Yes, yeah. But 1 is insane. I don't think you can do that. It wouldn't necessarily shock me if he is the best quarterback in college football, but to put him preseason 1 is just not wise. Nussmeier, Klubnik, I'm not the biggest Klubnik guy. I think, yes, he's developed, but the ACC is just really bad. And he was great against Texas. That's by far the best game of his career. That or like the UNC ACC championship game a couple years ago. But, we'll see about him. I still don't think he played all that well against South Carolina, which was late in the season, and that's an SEC school. I'm huge on Lenore Sellers. I think he could break the sport and be unbelievably awesome. A lot of high hopes for him. The Miller Moss thing I don't really get. Didn't think he was that good at USC with, quarterback guru Lincoln Riley. Maybe he can have a great season at Louisville, but Lagway's a guy I think I'd probably flirt with putting in my top 5. But Nussmeier, Sellers, Klubnik, those are the guys you're going to put towards the top. To include Arch in that category is just not what should be happening.
I think it would be okay if you put Arch like number 1 on top 5 ceilings. Like,
yes.
Ceiling wise, like, yeah, he's probably number 1, but
yeah, and you mentioned
best quarterbacks, like, no.
And you mentioned the dual threat thing. That's why I think people are so bullish on him.
Yeah.
Like, that is a huge part of why people are so high.
We'll continue the conversation once we come back from break here as we wrap up our number 1 right here with Omaha Productions and Rocky Top Insiders Jack Foster right here on a Friday on The Chase, Monday through Friday, 1 to 3, right here on Fan Run Radio, Fox Sports Knoxville. Stick with us. It's Fan Run Radio, Fox Sports Knoxville. We'll be right back.
Are you tired of trying to squeeze your dental appointments in on your lunch break or before you go to work? Here at Knoxville Smiles, we're all about making going to the dentist easier. That's why we're now open until 7 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays. To take advantage of our new evening hours, make your appointment now at knoxvillesmiles.com or just call us at 865-539-1776. Smile brighter with Knoxville Smiles.
Located in Knoxville's historic Old City, Barley's offers great food, live music, the best draft beer selection in town, and now your new favorite place to watch sports. Their indoor projector is perfect for any weather, and they've revamped their upstairs area with more TVs to take in all of the action. Their menu features hand-battered chicken tenders, juicy burgers, fresh salads, and the tastiest pizza in Knoxville. You can enjoy their happy hour drink specials daily from open until 6 p.m. Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria.
Do you love to gamble? Do you enjoy listening to people talk about gambling? Well, then I have some good news for you. Every weeknight at 6 p.m., you can hear John Reed and William Pattison go over the slate, thanks to our friends at VIP Play. Sports topics aren't always black and white, but on the slate, they are always green. Nothing but trends, angles, and bets to try to make you some money. The Slate, presented by VIP Sports on Fan Run Radio, weeknights from 6 to 7 p.m.
Are you looking for a treat that will knock it out of the park at the next watch party? Just like your favorite baseball team, Crumble brings the best lineup week to week with an expanded roster that includes key lime pie, strawberry cake, or my personal favorite, Monster featuring M&M candies. Let Crumble treat you to the best cookies in the game. Download the Crumble app and start earning rewards. You can even vote monthly on what flavors you would like to see at any store of your choice. Warmer weather is here, so get to the ballpark, but don't miss the cookies.
A brand built in Tennessee and born from the love of the game. Inward Half revolutionizes golfing comfort. Crafted by a former pro and dedicated enthusiast just like you, our luxury performance wear guarantees you stay cool and comfortable through every swing and every day. We're not just a brand. We've set out to create a lifestyle for those who understand that impeccable style and premium performance are a hole-in-one. Enjoy the walk-in with Inward Half.
What's the difference between an ordinary EV and a Mercedes-Benz EV? The feeling. Electric is what gets you there. Mercedes-Benz is what moves you in ways no other automaker can. Feel the freedom of the superbly versatile 7-seater EQB. Revel in the inspired, customizable comfort of the EQE sedan. Sense the brilliant intelligence of the EQE SUV. Discover the boundless capability of the EQS SUV. And luxuriate in the flagship meets spaceship magnificence of the EQS sedan. Every Mercedes-Benz electric vehicle offers the very latest MBUX voice-activated AI software, as well as remote access to a whole host of functions via the Mercedes Me Connect app. The vehicle's electric, the feeling all Mercedes, the choice all yours. Test drive a Mercedes-Benz electric today at your local dealer or learn more at mbusa.com/EQ.
Hey, Pack Rat. Yeah, you. Are you moving cross-country and you just don't know who to call? Call us right now. Listen, you've probably seen one of our containers in your neighborhood. But did you know that we can help you move anywhere in the United States? It's real simple. We'll drop a container off at the location you tell us to bring it to. You pack up your valuable possessions at your leisure. They stay safe right in your home. And when you're ready, call us. We'll come and pick up the container and give you a scheduled date of when your furniture and the other possessions will be at your new home. So if you're moving across country or across town, be a Pack Rat. Join the Pack Rat family. Call Pack Rat right now for your free quote. See y'all later, Pack Rats.
Call 800-965-1298. 800-965-1298. 800-965-1298. That's 800-965-1298.
It's The Chase right here on Fan Run Radio, Fox Sports Knoxville, as we wrap up hour number one right here in studio, the White Claw Hard Seltzer Studios in beautiful East Tennessee. We've got Omaha Productions and Rocky Top Insiders Jack Foster here with us on Fridays right here on The Chase. Joey Halsley, Josh Heupel. When we're thinking about pressure here, Jack, in 2025, one of the things that I think is really interesting, and we saw today, Lindy Sports, another good college football preview magazine, puts Tennessee at 11th in the SEC next season. That I have some thoughts, Jack Foster, on that projection going into 2025. But the one thing that I do think is really interesting about where Tennessee is at as a football program going into year 5 under Heupel is that there's no pressure on the defense. You know exactly what you are getting. You are happy. Like, can you find a Tennessee fan who doesn't love what Tennessee has built on the defensive side of the ball and just how stable that side of the ball is? And even if they take a slight step back, they're like, we added Marion Hobby and Alan Williams to just beef up our defense as a whole. Tim Banks just presses all the right buttons in his hiring. He replaces Brian John Marie with potential upgrade in William Inge, who's been fantastic as the linebackers coach at Tennessee. William Martinez has put together the best cornerback tandem in the 21st century with Ricky Gibson and Jermod McCoy. You just had an edge rusher go first round this year. Your second round pick, also a defensive guy. It took until Dante Thornton in the 4th round to have a Tennessee offensive player drafted early. It's been the defense. Byron Young has been a huge hit in the NFL with the Los Angeles Rams. Where they really need to start seeing some progress based in the last years is offense. And I think if you and I had talked about this when Heupel got hired in 2020, or even after the 2022 season, we would never, I don't think either of us would project that we're like, oh yeah, there's no pressure on the defense. Like, I'm fine. Like, just lock in Tim Banks, lock in Rodney Gardner, lock in Coach Chop, William Ingram. They're just elite. Like, they're just fine. Like, I don't have any worries about that side of the ball going forward. I haven't had any worries the last 2 years about that side of the ball. But on offense, they have been kind of shielded from the criticism, I think, by and large from this fan base because you've won 30 games the last 3 years. You've won 19 games the last 2 years with a bad passing offense. You were 94th in conference play in passing a season ago. It didn't work out with Nico Iamaleava. It didn't work out with Joe Milton. And obviously, it doesn't fall all on them, but those are 2 whiffs offensively. And I look at the pressure point for them. What happens if they have another bad passing season, even with the caveat of Nico departing late in the spring? If you have 3 of 5 years of below average to poor passing attack and a Josh Heupel-led program, it is weird. It is kind of like there has to be some level of frustration and pressure where you're like, you can't keep running it back with your same guys. Heupel doesn't fire people, but he also doesn't add people out of the family like Tim Banks does, where he's just like, I'm just going to go get the best guy. Like, I'm just going to go get the Washington, D.C. to replace Brian John Marie and William Inge. I'm just going to go hire Alan Williams as an analyst. I'm just going to go hire Marion Hobby. Like, I'm just going to go get the best talent possible, and I want to create the best possible coaching staff on my side of the ball. And that's just not what we see on the offensive side of the ball, right?
Yeah, it's not, and you're right. All the pressure is on the offense, and I think after 23, a lot of the discussion and could have just been chalked up to, well, transition year with Joe Milton. You know, like it didn't really work with Milton. They had some moments, but largely it was kind of a fail. It's fine. Joe Milton, not a ton of expectations anyway. Now we got Nico. Let's go. And then last year was the really bad eyesore in those first halves, those first halves from hell in those couple of games. It was just really bad. And then now we got, this is kind of the outlook on Tennessee as a football team. You're right. All the pressure is on Heupel and Halsley. I think a lot's on Halsley, and I think it will be kind of another. You will kind of have another excuse here because of the quarterback play. Well, it's a young Merklinger. Oh, Joey Aguilar, late edition, kind of got screwed by the Nico thing. I think if it was year 2 of Nico and it was bad again, it would be just really, really bad because that can't happen. But yeah, there's definitely more pressure on the offense than the defense as of now, which is crazy to say after how electric it was those first 2 years and, frankly, how bad the defense was, too. It's been a complete 180.
Yeah, and I think you're right that I think some fans will give a mulligan because of the Nico thing, but it's also like that's still kind of on you. Like, Nico is still someone that you brought in, and it's still somebody that you lost in the spring window and not someone that you lost in the winter window when you could have upgraded potentially at that spot. You could have gotten a big-time quarterback out of the portal because that would have been a very attractive QB opening in December, January than it was 2.5 months before the start of the regular season. So it was a little bit different in terms of timing, but the thing I struggle with here is that there's so much nuance required to look at what's happening with Tennessee's offense the last 2 years. And it's always something different, right? Where last year, right tackle was just a disaster. And they were not able to withstand both John Campbell and Dane Davis just not getting it down on the right side. And it didn't help that Lance Hurd came on super late, too. So when your tackles are not functioning at a high level, like you were able to get by with J.J. Crawford and Gerald Mincey and on one side in 2022, and the tempo's not there, and you're slow, and it felt very discombobulated, and you have to live in 12 personnel, then guess what? The passing game's going to struggle. The passing game's going to fall off a little bit. Like, Tennessee has been a top 10 rushing attack the last 2 years, but they haven't been a top 10 offense the last 2 years. The best version of Tennessee was 2022 when they led college football in scoring. Guess what? They were, I think, 26th in rushing that year, and they were top 3 in passing. The best version of Heupel's offense is a running game that is secondary to the deep shots, that is secondary to the chunk plays. The problem is you still need tackles who you can rely on to block long enough so that you can create those long chunk plays. You need receivers who can get open. You need receivers who don't drop balls when they do get open. You need tempo. Like, I think that is no question. The best version of Tennessee has to have some level of tempo back in their structure, and I don't know if it's realistic now because Joey Aguilar coming in so late in the process. Jake Merklinger, I think, has a much better shot of managing a tempo with being 2 years in the system and being pretty comfortable there. Like, I would not be surprised if he was a better fit to run tempo. But that is also the best version of Tennessee's offense and the most scary version of Tennessee's offense. I just think the vibe matters so much in 2025. Do you agree? Because if the vibe is not good offensively, even if you win 9 games or 8 games, and the vibe and the offense is like, kind of like last year where you got shut out for a whole month straight in the first half, even with the Nico stuff, I think that's where people are like, all right, man, you got to we're not calling for Heupel, but we are calling for changes underneath Heupel, where it's like you can't keep running this back. Like that's 3 years straight of just below average play of what we saw in 22, and we understand that 22 is almost impossible to replicate, but you're not even close in the passing game. And that's what I worry about is the vibe. If this team really struggles vibe-wise, but the wins are there, how do fans balance below average quarterback player, below average passing attack, but still elite rushing attack, maybe even a good to great, maybe even elite if Sanders and Hurd come together, offensive line. Like how do they balance that? It's complicated as a fan, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if you lose to Georgia 24-6 and you lose to Bama 31-10, and these, you go 8-4 or 9-3 even maybe, losing to the opponents you expected to lose to, Georgia, Bama, Florida, but you all are double-digit losses because your offense stinks. Yes, it looks much different than if you're competitive in Gainesville, you're competitive in Tuscaloosa, you hold your own in Neyland, and you lose by 21-17. That's obviously a much different loss. So I agree with you, Chase. Tennessee's ceiling and floor very close. I have a hard time believing Tennessee goes under 8-4 this year, and I have a hard time believing Tennessee finishes better than 9-3. So when the window is so tight, the record isn't going to tell the story. How it happens tells the story this year, in my opinion.
I think that's fair, and I also look at if Heupel has to be very careful in terms of how he manages quarterback this year, because Hendon Hooker was not a Heupel guy. That was not a Heupel eval. That was a leftover of the Jeremy Pruitt era, and he has been arguably your best quarterback in the 21st century. Like Heupel struck gold with Hendon Hooker, and he deserves credit for maximizing Hendon Hooker, because that was not what the Hendon Hooker we saw at Virginia Tech. He deserves credit for that being the perfect marriage for both sides. That being said, we are going on 3 years now of no Hendon Hooker being there, and Joe Milton was the guy you started ahead of Hendon Hooker that first year. And what happens if Joe Milton doesn't get hurt in the first half against Pitt in 2021? Does he keep rolling Joe Milton out and Tennessee just slogs their way to 7-5?
I don't think so.
I don't know. We'll never know the answer to that, but he went with Joe, and then he went with Joe again in 2023, and that did not go well. And again, it's not all on Joe in 23. That being said, he did not have a good year. Joe Milton did not have a good final year at Tennessee. And then in 24, Nico, after sitting and waiting, and that was another eval guy. It wasn't like Nico was the only quarterback in that class. Like, they like Nico. Like, that was
their guy.
Nico's their guy. And Nico was the quarterback who got shut out for a month straight. Nico was the guy who, it looked pretty dire in the first half against Alabama before he really changed gears from the second half of the Alabama game on. Again, not all on Nico. The receivers had a really bad year, probably the worst year in the Heupel era. The offensive line, you could say, was probably the worst in the Heupel era last year too. But all of that was mitigated because Dylan Sampson was one of the two best running backs in college football last year, potentially. So that helped. And the defense being top 10 in scoring, that also helped.
Mm-hmm.
I just think if you go Joey Aguilar and he's a disaster and you wanted to go safe with the vet guy and you didn't want to throw Jake Merklinger to the fire, but then Jake gets in because Joey he can't stop throwing picks, and Heupel's like, I just can't trust him. And then it's like week 5 and you're 3-2, 3-1, and then you're going Jake, and the offense is still like Jake is just calming everything down and just kind of like, hey, let's just do what we did last year to get to 9-3 and get out of here. That's when people are like, all right, what are you seeing here? Because you brought in Joey Aguilar too, and this is a very, very different situation, obviously because of the timing and the circumstance there. But I don't know. Then folks are going to be like, all right, man, like, first it was Joe, then it was Nico, now it's Aguilar, and I don't know. Like, you have this humongous prospect who's a bigger prospect than Nico Iamaleava was coming in Faison Brandon next year, and I think a lot of folks are getting more and more excited. Like, he had a great showing this week at the Elite 11s. But, man, you need some juice. You need some goodwill, and if you miss out again and it feels like you misevaluated at quarterback again or you didn't handle the quarterback room well, then people are like, all right, well, you're the quarterback whisperer. You're the guy. You won a national championship as a quarterback. You are the quarterback guru, and you just can't get that position right for whatever reason in the last 3 years. Like, that's kind of wild to think about, but that's kind of where you're at.
Yeah, this is a huge couple years for it, right? Jake, George, Faison. You missed on Nico, but kind of ended in an odd way to where you can kind of just say, oh, it ended this way. Who knows? Nico could have balled out in 25, right? But these three guys, figure only 2 will actually play valuable snaps for Tennessee, but whoever does, how they perform will be very indicative of Heupel as that quarterback whisperer, as you say. You know, and you talk about Joey Aguilar crashing and burning with him. I just don't see Tennessee doing that, because if Syracuse, I mean, I have a hard time believing it'll be bad for Tennessee. I think that's their 5th most losable game. But if it's close and then Tennessee just gets throttled by Georgia, I think Tennessee will make a change. You have no ties to Joey Aguilar. You have no reason to keep going back to him if you just get embarrassed on your home field by Georgia. You know, I feel like that would be the time to make a shift.
Well, they also have a bye right for Arkansas at home, so it's like you give them that final game at Mississippi State, and if Mississippi State is just a back and forth where Tennessee barely gets out with a win, that's when I see the change happening, where you're like, all right, let's not throw Jake on the road at Mississippi State.
Yeah.
Let's just get him at home against Arkansas, 2 weeks to prepare. If I had to bet right now when we see the first Merklinger start, I think it's Arkansas. And you know how I feel about Merck. So you give him the job in Arkansas on, I don't think Merck is giving that job up.
Yeah, I guess. It just depends on how bad Georgia is, how bad that loss would be. Because if it's horrible and Mississippi State has a little bit of juice to their offense under Levy, you don't want to take any chances. Then you'd give Merklinger the UAB game to have under his belt. But that's what you're saying.
Coming back here at the top of hour number 2, we'll talk to Lindsey Crosby of Braves Today, and talk some Atlanta Braves who are coming off a big sweep of the New York Mets. We'll talk to friend of Jack Foster's here and UTK alum and Memphis Grizzlies and analyst Bryson Wright at the end of hour 2, and we'll also talk a whole lot more Tennessee football and baseball. So stick with us. It's The Chase right here on Fan Run Radio, Fox Sports Knoxville, WKGN 105.7 FM, 1340 AM. We'll be back right after this.
105.7 FM, 1340 AM. Online at fanrunradio.com and streaming on the free Fan Run Radio app. This is Fan Run Radio, Knoxville.
When it's past high noon, it's time for a vodka soda made with a vodka you've actually heard of. I'm talking White Claw vodka soda made with White Claw premium vodka. JB Smooth only drinks vodka soda made with the world's smoothest vodka.
And you can too. Pick you up a bottle of the triple wave filtered vodka that's been distilled 5 times. White Claw Premium Vodka comes in 4 flavors: black cherry, mango, pineapple, and just vodka. You haven't had vodka like this. No one has. White Claw Premium Vodka. Please drink responsibly.
We really need to get some branded stuff. Shirts, hats, promo items, something professional.
I mean, we could just find a website and order a bunch of it ourselves.
You could, but you're taking a big risk. You don't know the quality, the fit, the timeline. It's a roll of the dice.
Yeah, I guess. But isn't that how everyone does it now?
Not the ones who actually care about how their brand looks. Look, if we're putting our name on it, it needs to be done right. We need SM Athletics.
SM Athletics?
Yeah. They specialize in working with businesses like ours. Apparel, hats, promo gear, but real, customized stuff. They actually care if it turns out right.
Probably a lot better than getting stuck with 100 t-shirts with crooked logos.
Exactly. Plus, they'll walk you through everything. Sizing, colors, material, so it matches the image we're trying to build.
Makes sense. What's the name again?
SM Athletics. Trust me, if you want to look like a real company, not a flea market stand, this is the move. If you're serious about your brand, work with people who are serious about getting it right. SM Athletics.
Now, it's time for your Atlanta Braves Morning Update. Presented by Tidal Wave Auto Spa. Get clean car happy at any of the 250-plus Tidal Wave Auto Spa locations today.
Braves top the Mets and sweep the series. I'm Barrett Salee, and this is your Braves Radio Network Morning Update.
Get clean car happy all season long at Tidal Wave with exclusive membership discounts, giveaways, and more. Visit TidalWaveAutospa.com/Braves for more information.
The Braves topped the Mets 7-1 on Thursday and sweep the 3-game set with their NL East rival Spencer Strider. Fantastic yet again. 6 innings, 5 hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk, and 8 strikeouts. He's now 2-5 on the season. Matt Olson went 2 for 3, including 2 doubles. A 3-run double in the 6th inning put the game out of reach. The Braves have now won 26 of their last 36 meetings with the Mets. They're plus 81 in run differential over that span. Friday night, 3-game set with the Marlins starting in Lone Depot Park in Miami. Jansen Junk will go for the Marlins. He's 1-0, the 2.78 ERA and 20 strikeouts. The Braves will counter with Didier Fuentes. He's pitched 39 1/3 over 3 different levels of minor league baseball. He has 49 Ks over that stretch. Ford leadoff show coming your way, 5:55 Eastern. First pitch with Darren and Ben, 7:10 Eastern time, right here on the Braves Radio Network.
Ready to launch your career? Axle Logistics is a leading third-party logistics company where excellence is an energy. With an award-winning culture, Axle proves that positive outcomes come from a positive environment and a work hard, play hard mentality. At Axle, the drive for success is infectious. And with an uncapped commission structure, hard work isn't just noticed, it's rewarded. For those with big goals and even bigger dreams, Axle Logistics is the place to start your career.
It's the Chase! It's the Chase! Live 1 to 3, Monday through Friday on Fan Run Radio, Fox Sports Knoxville. Listen to Chase and his friends on WKGN. It's the Chase! It's the Scruffy City! Listen to his friends, and his friends are on WKGN. I'm always taking your calls on the Tennessee Vols. It's the Chase! It's the Chase! It's the Chase!
It's the Chase here on Fan Run Radio, Fox Sports Knoxville. We got a guest on the line. We got Lindsey Crosby, who covers the Braves at an elite level. It's a great time to talk Braves, Lindsey, because the vibes have never been better. We've got a 20-year-old flamethrower coming in, getting A.J. Smith-Shawver comparisons. You just swept the Mets. Things are looking up after what felt like just the longest month and a half of Braves baseball in a long time, right?
Chase, the vibes are immaculate right now. And to your point, it's been a lot more fun doing radio hits this week than it has in the last few because of how well the team has played, obviously. But I'm trying to caution everybody that they beat the Mets. They beat the Mets handily, right? This is still not the Atlanta Braves that we know are not still back. They're close. They're closer than they've been all season, but there's still a little bit more work to do. But what they did show us this week is, hey, they could absolutely still not only contend for the wild card, but if everything breaks right, they could maybe get back in the divisional race too.
Yeah, I mean, the divisional race seems still pretty far out. I was looking at I check FanGraphs, just projections every day, and it's nice to see the playoff odds are back up to like 36%. I want to say somewhere around there, but when division's like 3%, it's like 3 to 4%. I think that when you're 10 plus games back here going into early July, look, never say never in this division, but right. I have to see it. I just want to make the playoffs. We're at a point where it's already going to be hard enough to get to 90 wins. That you already have to go on a heater for the next 2.5 months anyway. Let's not worry about the whole winning division thing. Let's just get in and figure it out later.
And that's what I've told people. You know, the march to 90 should be the goal here.
Yeah.
And the good news is, like, Atlanta's still been pretty good against the Mets and Phillies this season. They're tied with Philly in the season series. Obviously, they've beat New York now, and they've just dominated New York for a while. But the schedule's going to work out well. They have a lot of games later in the year against the Marlins. I think they played them 10 times in the month of August. So, like, this stretch right now, between now and July 1st, can really help you figure out how strongly do we need to add, how good is this team. I still feel like they are good enough to make the postseason. A couple small holes you have to fill. I think a high-leverage reliever is pretty important. But this week showed – and they even said this in the clubhouse to us. They told us, like it was nice to get the wins. It was nice to get the confidence that we're doing the right thing and that it's paying off on the field to kind of that mental lift of, hey, we can still beat the best teams in baseball.
What do we need to know about the new 20-year-old flamethrower coming in here?
What I love about Didier Fuentes is he is really similar to Brian Wu, a little bit to Spencer Strider as well. He's a smaller guy that has a very good fastball, and it's because he throws it up in the zone. It has really good velocity. He has elite levels of extension, right? He releases it 7 foot away from the pitching rubber. And so because of that, combined with the really flat angle that it has coming in, is very, very hard for guys to pick up when he locates it up in the zone. You're going to see mostly just fastball slider today. He has 4 pitches. He has a curveball. He has a splitter. But what Atlanta likes to do, and he's been doing this season, is they like to tell guys, hey, your fastball's great. Stick with that. Throw your slider as the secondary pitch. Don't worry about those other ones. They did this with A.J. Smith-Shawver. We saw Smith-Shawver when he finally came back. He had that split finger that was really good. He had other pitches, but they're like, hey, focus on fastball slider. You'll get that today from Fuentes. He's only gone 6 innings 3 times in his career. I don't think he'll go very deep, but I think he'll show you some strikeouts. He'll probably show you a couple of mistakes against major league hitters, but overall it should be a good outing. And then I think they'll send him back to Gwinnett to keep working on some of those finer points.
Does he project as a closer or a starter potentially for the Braves?
The velocity is good enough where he could be in a closing role. That fastball slider is good enough to be a 1-2 punch. Mm-hmm. But Alex Anthopoulos has really prioritized workload from the prospect pitchers and leaving them as starters for as long as possible to try to let them build that workload. So I think if he didn't work out as a starter, he has the raw velocity. He's touched 98, 99. He has the raw velocity to end up in a bullpen role, in a closing role. But I think they're going to want to keep him starting for as long as possible simply because AA likes to build that workload. Maybe when the minor league season's over, they stick him into the Braves bullpen in September. But I do think the goal for him, they want him to be a starter simply because it's just so hard to find quality starter innings without paying an arm and a leg in Major League Baseball.
That's fair. Jerks and Profar raking right now for the Stripers in Gwinnett in AAA. This is going to be such a weird thing for Alex Anthopoulos to balance, Lindsay, right? Because if he rakes coming in July when he's back on July 2nd, and he's great for the Braves down the stretch, you still don't have him for the most important time of the year. So it's just, I don't know what you do there because you obviously need him for this playoff push, but you also have to plan around him not being there. And you've seen the production in left field, like Verdugo and Eli White and it's been a revolving door there. You've not gotten a lot of production outside of Ronald Acuna in right field this year. I think you still kind of have to trade for another outfield bat, right? Like, I think that's something that Alex Anthopoulos is going to have to do, even knowing that Jurickson Profar needs to play a bunch. It's not an envious situation. Like, the playoff part of this, I kind of want to just be like, just take the whole year ban, because if you're not available to the playoffs for a team that's trying to make the playoffs right now, it's going to make everything incredibly complicated, right?
It is. And I think the key that you're going to see here is going to be that August 1st deadline. That's the deadline a guy has to be in your organization if you want him to be postseason eligible, right? It feels like the focus has to be make the postseason. You mentioned it, the Fangraph odds, the Baseball Reference odds, the sports books I've talked to, they all have Atlanta at less than a 50% chance. But they're going to have to do something if they get to October. The question is, are they going to get to October? And we saw this a little bit last year with the Braves and the Royals. They traded Yuli Gurriel on the last day that they could. They traded him to the Royals. He had been in the minors all year, and the Royals put him on the postseason roster. I could see Atlanta, if they're not confident that Eli White or Alex Verdugo or whichever one of them is left on the roster after Profar comes back, if they're not confident that that guy can produce in October, they may try to grab somebody else at that last-minute date. You can only trade minor leaguers. You can't trade major leaguers. But they may try to do something late. It just kind of feels like it's hard to go out and get another guy unless you get an explicit rental, because you're going to have Profar next year too. Maybe somebody like a Taylor Ward from L.A. Like, there's a couple options you could do. It's just so hard knowing you have 3 outfielders signed for next year already. So going out and getting somebody, especially if you bring back Marcell Ozuna, means you're just creating another depth problem for yourself.
Yeah, and I don't know what you do ultimately with Alex Anthopoulos. Yeah. Like, I don't think this is a great situation. I'd love to get him off the record here. It's like, how frustrating is this? Right? Like, he's pretty open, though. Like, him talking with 680 this week about, just about everything. And, he's bullish on, obviously, this team making the playoffs, and they're not going to be sellers. And, some GMs are like, oh, we don't know. We'll see. You kind of, like, tiptoe on both ends so you don't tip your hand too much. But he's like, no, we're going to be buyers. Like, that's part of the deal. Chris Sale is going to be here, and we're gonna keep this thing humming, and we believe that we're going to be able to figure this out. I don't know. Like, who is the one player to you that would fill a major need for the Braves that the Braves could add, because right now your best trade chips are not having great years, like the Michael Harrises of the world. I think you would have loved to have a full year of Nacho Alvarez raking and Gwinnett to up his value. You can't trade Drake Baldwin. I think he looks like your long-term catcher. Sean Murphy's not hitting enough to increase his value. So you look around, you're like, I don't really know outside of Chris Sale and you want to keep Chris Sale around, like who the guy is that you can really move, because everyone's graduated in this farm system. So it's kind of sneaky barren at the top end, and I don't know what they do to acquire a big-time bat that they can add into that group, because they need somebody else, and it's probably shortstop, right? And I don't know what they can offer.
Yeah, and the issue there at shortstop is it's so hard to find a quality guy who can actually give you the offense. Nick Allen's pacing out to be the best infield defender in baseball. He's been fantastic with the glove, but his offense is kind of a black hole. He's been better in front of Ronald. He's walking a lot more in front of Ronald, and it feels like Ronald always drives him in too. But finding a guy is going to be really tough. I honestly think that you may just have to accept what you can get with the outfield. I do think there's always the ability to move a pitching prospect. You can always take an arm. There are teams who will go grab an arm. Atlanta has a lot of highly regarded pitching prospects. They may not be top 100 guys, but they're guys. Especially for a rental, it's not too expensive to do. But I still think the number one deal Atlanta should make should be something like going to the Pirates and saying, hey, David Bednar, closer, and he has another year of team control. Andrew Heaney as a veteran lefty for the rotation, because right now your spot starts coming from a 20-year-old prospect who's never debuted before. You've just run through your starting pitching depth. I think something like that, reinforcing the strength of the rotation so that you don't have a drop-off there if another injury comes in, fixing the back end, and then hoping that Profar's return is enough production in left field to get you into October is probably the way I think they end up approaching this. I just picked the Pirates partly because we know they're not going to make the postseason. They would already be able to sell right now. The problem with the expanded postseason is most teams are still somewhat in it and don't really know if they're going to be buyers or sellers until a month from now. If you want to improve right now, it's a small group you can pull from.
Yeah. Lindsey Crosby joining us at Braves today. Lindsey, final thing, we'll get you out of here on this. You are also an Auburn fan and Auburn baseball podcast co-host of the Barn. Auburn had a great year in the SEC here. Is this Auburn baseball turning the corner? Are they going to be someone that Tennessee fans should look out for at the top of the SEC next year? Where are things with Auburn baseball?
Auburn thinks that they have now proven that they should be considered one of those top programs in the SEC, albeit with the caveat of they've never won a championship, right? But they talk about, they've been to the Supers multiple times. They hosted their first ever Super Regional, and, just since the lost 2020 season. And Auburn does it a little bit differently than a lot of the other teams, than like Tennessee does or LSU or Arkansas, where Auburn doesn't have what I call those stuff monsters, those big, flashy first-round draft picks at pitcher on the mound and those amazingly just desired position players. But Auburn's kind of just a really fundamentally sound team that plays good defense, does everything correct. And I feel like it's the same blueprint you see from Coastal Carolina. Right? Like they're another squad like that. Good pitching, good offense. Individually, most of them don't scare you, but as a unit, they're a very good team. That's where Auburn feels like they are. And they think based on the track record, they should be considered one of those, top 6 programs in the conference and should get more respect than they usually are projected for a bottom 4 finish in the conference every year. The big question for me is, can they repeat it? We've seen them take steps back like last year. 23, they had the regional at home, and they got swept out of their own regional. So if they could repeat it, that would be great. But Auburn feels like they're there, just based on the track record that Butch Thompson has put up since he's been here, and especially after that missing 2020 season.
I love it. It's Lindsey Crosby, covers the Braves at an exceptional level over there at Braves Today. He's also on Locked On Braves. He's doing Braves coverage each and every day, and he's also doing a great job covering Auburn baseball as well. And we'll see if Auburn's able to get back and compete with the big boys here in East Tennessee, Lindsey. It's going to be difficult to compete with Tony Vitello and 5 straight Supers here. And with
it absolutely is. I mean, they don't think that they're better than Tony. They just want to be, hey, like we're in the conversation of we're not automatically going to be expected to get swept every time we play Tennessee. That's where they want to be, right?
Well, that's
it's
not
like
where
they
we want
to
y'all
be.
to be.
Hey, this might be 1-2. This could be 2-1 if it breaks right for Auburn. That's what they're looking for. They're not looking for, oh yeah, you're going to get swept by Tennessee and Arkansas and LSU and Alabama. That's all they want. Little respect, you know.
There you go. Well, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. We can be like Tennessee fans. It's time. We can poke out our chests. Like best program in college baseball.
Yeah.
Like it's just
Absolutely,
it's nice.
absolutely
Who
deserved.
knows how long this lasts? But we're enjoying the ride each and every day. Back to Omaha next year.
It's a fun team to watch. I'll say that. Tennessee baseball is a fun team to watch and can absolutely put up runs in a hurry. The pitchers are always fun, and Tony Vitello is not afraid to take a guy like Liam Doyle. Like, hey, you want to come back on Monday? We got rained out in your first thing. You want to come back in Game 3 and just let him shove? It's tons of fun as a baseball fan to watch what Tennessee baseball does.
I love it. Lindsey Crosby, keep up the good work, my friend, and we'll check back in again soon.
Thanks, Jay.
Lindsey Crosby does a great job for Braves today. Got some Auburn talk in there. He covers Auburn baseball as well. So great stuff from Lindsey. Go give him a follow for all the Braves fans tuning in here, right here on the Chase Fan Run Radio, Fox Sports Knoxville. We'll continue on hour number 2 after this with Omaha Productions and Rocky Top Insiders Jack Foster. Stick with us. It's the Chase right here on Fan Run Radio, Fox Sports Knoxville.
For the fans, by the fans, this is Fan Run Radio, Knoxville.
Where are the best ribs in the Volunteer State? Rickard Ridge. Who has the best barbecue catering packages in East Tennessee? Rickard Ridge. And where is the most beautiful setting to enjoy a meal with family and friends? Rickard Ridge. Rickard Ridge Barbecue. Just a quick ride up I-75, take exit 134, hang a right, and Rickard Ridge is on your left, just inside Cove Lake State Park.
Hi, I'm Dr. Mike Costa at Knoxville Smiles. Here at Knoxville Smiles, we're all about making it easier for you to see the dentist. That's why we're now open until 7 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays. If going to the dentist in the morning or during normal business hours doesn't fit your busy schedule, come see us a little later. Call 865-539-1776 to schedule your appointment, or just visit us online at knoxvillesmiles.com. Smile brighter with Knoxville Smiles.
Ready to launch your career? Axle Logistics is a leading third-party logistics company where excellence is an energy. With an award-winning culture, Axle proves that positive outcomes come from a positive environment and a work hard, play hard mentality. At Axle, the drive for success is infectious. And with an uncapped commission structure, hard work isn't just noticed, it's rewarded. For those with big goals and even bigger dreams, Axle Logistics is the place to start your career.
Good morning and happy Friday, everybody. It's a beautiful day ahead of us today. Finally, some sunshine, dry weather. Oh, and it's the first day of summer. We start the morning off with some patchy, dense fog, temperatures in the 60s. We'll climb into the upper 80s with a heat index value right around 90. This forecast is brought to you by Master Battery. Listen, they've got the best prices in town guaranteed. They've been here for more than 40 years, and they have what you need when you need it. Give them a call today, 865-947-1500. From the East Tennessee Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Mike Witcher for Fox Sports Knoxville, Fan Run Radio.
What are you going to do with your old car? You can try selling it, you could junk it, or you can donate it to Heritage for the Blind. Your car will be towed away for free, and your donation is tax deductible. Just call 1-800-639-8620. Heritage for the Blind accepts cars, vans, trucks, and boats. It doesn't matter if your vehicle runs or not. It'll be towed away for free, and you'll be supporting those that need help. Heritage for the Blind is a nonprofit organization that helps the visually impaired live fuller lives. Call right now to donate your car. And as a special thank you for calling, you'll receive a free 3-day vacation voucher to many exciting locations. Call Heritage for the Blind right now. Call 1-800-639-8620. Donating is easy, and your vehicle is towed away for free. Plus, you'll get a free vacation voucher. Call now, 1-800-639-8620. That's 1-800-639-8620.
You know it is. You know we go. You know. For the longest while we're jamming in the party, and you're waiting on me, pushing everything right back on top of me, yeah. But if you think you're gonna get
It's The Chase right here on Fan Run Radio, Fox Sports Knoxville. Continuing on here, hour number 2 on a Friday with Rocky Top Insider and Omaha Productions' own Jack Foster. We still got intern Jay King, intern Garrett Armbrust in here. And speaking of Garrett Armbrust, G5 Garrett, as he will be known all summer long as we continue on our preview series, we had the doom and gloom of the Marshall Thundering Herd in 2025 yesterday. Great stuff. It was sad. We needed the Sarah McLachlan music playing behind it with Garrett's analysis on the Thundering Herd going into year 1 under Tony Gibson. But Jacksonville State, new coach as well, Charles Kelly coming in, longtime DC. He's been DC, I think, everywhere in the country. I swear, like Alabama, Auburn, Colorado. You just go through his trajectory. Great recruiter, longtime recruiter, Charles Kelly, but we'll see how he ultimately does as his first head coaching job really late in the process here. But what can be said about the position that he's walking into to replace Rich Rod at Jacksonville State with the Gamecocks?
All right, well, I promise today will be a little bit more exciting than yesterday.
Yesterday was exciting. It was just sad.
Yeah, it won't be as sappy as yesterday, I guess we'll put it that way. So, yeah, like you said, Charles Kelly's going to enter his first year as head coach. They're going to bring in Clint Trickett and Brian Williams also in year 1 to pick up the OC and DC roles. So pretty much going to be a brand-new coaching staff up at the top in the 3 main coaching roles. They do bring in the second-ranked transfer portal class in the CUSA and the 6th-ranked recruiting class in the CUSA. So they do have some obviously outgoing transfers on the offense that either followed Rich Rod to West Virginia or followed their offensive coordinator to Marshall. They were able to bring in a couple guys, most notably Cade Cunningham, quarterback. He was kind of the backup guy at Memphis the past couple years. They do bring in Cam Cook, running back from TCU, who had 9 touchdowns last year and 460 rushing yards, 3.9 yards per carry. He was kind of more of a red zone threat, but he's probably going to be more of their RB1 this year. And then they also bring in some Power 4 talent in the wide receiver room in DeAndre Johnson from Rutgers. He's a 6'8 wide receiver, 230 pounds. Did not play at Rutgers, but I would imagine that a 6'8 wide receiver in the CUSA could cause some havoc on some secondaries and on some defense. Haven't really seen any tape on him play, but when you have the frame like that, that's always an exciting piece, especially after they lost some guys last year, most notably being Trey Stewart, one of their running backs last year. He had, I think, around 1,500 rushing yards, 20-plus touchdowns. He signed as an unrestricted free agent in the NFL after the draft this year. On offense, they do return a couple of main pieces. They have 2 guys on their offensive line that'll be back, that'll be key pieces, and they bring back one of their best wide receivers, Michael Pettaway, who had 3 touchdowns and 18.2 yards per catch last year. On the defensive side of the ball, again, they had some outgoing transfers that followed Rich Rod to West Virginia. They brought in Curtis Perry, defensive line from Virginia Tech. They brought in Rod Elston, safety from Auburn. They brought in safety Trevor Woods from Colorado, an edge Jacob Cruz from Georgia Tech, and a cornerback Traquan Fegans from UCF. Caleb Nix, safety from Clemson, among some other players. So they brought in lots of Power 4 talent. And they also brought in a Division II standout from the D2 national champions Ferris State. Before he got injured last year, he had 29 total tackles and 4.5 tackles for loss. So that could be an interesting player. Perry was also once a 4-star prospect during his time at Virginia Tech. Schedule-wise, they'll have UCF to open their season. Georgia Southern and USM will also be a part of their non-conference schedule, both coming out of the Sun Belt. And then they'll play Sam Houston State, Middle Tennessee State, UTEP, and FIU also on the road, with Liberty, Murray State, Delaware, Kennesaw State, and Western Kentucky at home. I thought it was kind of odd. They have 7 away games this year. Not really sure why that is, but they have 7 away games and 5 home games.
Not great for a year 1 coach.
No, but with all the talent that they're kind of doing here, that they're replacing, there's a lot of teams that are doing this. Sam Houston State's kind of in the same, thing. Casey Keeler ended up going to Temple. They brought in Longo to be their new coach. They have a lot of new depth pieces there. Western Kentucky, obviously, they have some new pieces. They'll probably be the favorite in the conference with Liberty. But there's a lot of turnover in the Conference USA this year, and I still could see Jack State competing for the top of the conference, maybe as a top 4 team. I still think that the pieces that they bring in will still be good enough to compete, because over the past couple of years, especially last year, I mean, they won the conference, and I just don't think they're going to take a dramatic step backwards. Maybe a little bit of a step backwards. I don't think they'll go 7-1 in conference play again, but I think they'll definitely have a winning season in conference play still.
If you had to bet on the two, Charles Kelly and Tony Gibson, 3 years from now, 2 longtime DCs, good DCs in the South, a lot of good ties in their area, like obviously Tony Gibson, the West Virginia guy at Marshall now, and then you have Charles Kelly, Alabama guy who's recruited the state really well. Who is more likely to make this work in the Sun Belt and over the next 3 years? Is it Charles Kelly at Jacksonville State, or is it Gibson at Marshall?
I think Jacksonville State, just because, I mean, he's already landed a 4-star prospect the other day. He had offers from other, I think it was a couple other maybe ACC. He had Power 4 offers for sure. Jacksonville State landed him. Marshall just seems like, I mean, I said obviously yesterday, their program's definitely going to take a step back this year, whereas I think Jack State can kind of keep on I mean, they'll definitely probably take a step back as well, but it's not going to be as egregious as the step back that Marshall's going to take. So I think if you can kind of just level that out and then get back going, that can help them. Whereas if Marshall really takes a step back and, say, wins 4 games this year, that could set them back kind of significantly. I feel like Jacksonville State, too. I feel like Alabama, in the South, you can land a lot of those guys from Alabama and Georgia that might have been kind of underlooked by Auburns and the Alabamas and, the Georgias and teams of that nature, SEC teams. So I think it's a boiling pot of the top talent in the country in the Southeast, and I think you can hit on a lot of those guys that may or may not have gotten a chance elsewhere.
There you have it. G5 Garrett. A lot more positive there on the Gamecocks. He's bullish on the Gamecocks in 2025. I
think they'll be decent.
There you go. I like it. We'll get James Madison in here Monday just to get some real positive in there with Bob Chesney and company.
All right.
We'll go there. But great stuff from G5 Garrett, as he will do right here every day on The Chase throughout this summer. We have a lot of just college football fans all across East Tennessee who love to know what's going down the pike here in the Sun Belt and the rest of the G5. As we continue on here in hour number 2, Year 2 Lowdown Series continues. Jack Foster, we talked about Caleb Beasley a couple weeks ago. He is going to be competing directly with this guy, the heavy hitter, young player. Fans really like Aegis Farouk. He's out of a great high school over there, St. Francis Academy in Baltimore. I think he is along with Dominic Bailey, St. Francis guys. I want to say that's it right now, but we'll see. I think there might be a couple more. I know Dante Thornton was a Baltimore guy, but he wasn't a St. Francis guy. So it's been really kind to Tennessee. Tim Banks and company have recruited the Baltimore area extremely well, and Aegis Farouk is in one of the biggest summer fall camp battles at Tennessee this year. So with Jacoby Thomas out to Miami, with Christian Charles out to Virginia, a lot falls on this competition. Andre Turrentine going to his 3rd year as a starter opposite of whoever wins this job. Will Brooks filled in admirably in some big spots last year for Tennessee. I think a lot of people were worried. They're like, oh, are we really going to go into 2025 with a walk-on starter, or 2024 with a walk-on starter? You did, and you were fine. You did not give up any big plays through the air all season long. He had a pick 6 against NC State, big interception to seal it against Bama. He had a solid year by all accounts throughout the year for Tennessee, and they really, really maximized what he could do for them this past year. This year, it's really fascinating because I don't see a way that even if Beasley, the 4-star out of Lipscomb Academy, who's going into year 2, along with Aegis Farouk, true sophomore, I think he played enough snaps where he's not a redshirt freshman, if I remember correctly, with Farouk. But they're completely different players. He has more of the Jacoby Thomas heavy hitter, that natural safety that fans are going to love. Caleb Beasley was more of a corner who's now been moved to safety, and now we're going to see how he acclimates. He has the size and the range and that kind of thing to be one of those interesting safeties. He would be the first 4-star safety that Tennessee has brought in with this staff ever in the Heupel Tim Banks era. So that could be interesting to watch to see what Beasley's upside is at safety for him and if that's a better fit They cross-train. It really doesn't matter. Christian Charles was at corner, then he was at safety, then he was at corner. Like, they do all that. But I do think this is a really interesting battle because they're two completely different guys. Like, Beasley, I think, is more of like a finesse. Like, he's probably a better coverage safety for Tennessee at that spot. But I think Idris Farouk might be better in run defense. He might be better rushing the passer from the safety spot, if they call those. He's going to maybe a better tackler. He's definitely not afraid of contact because the thing that we saw the most of in his limited opportunities last year, Idris Farouk is not afraid to lower the shoulder. And I think Tennessee fans are naturally going to be drawn to Farouk. And I think he's going to have an opportunity, even if he doesn't start over Beasley this fall. I think those two are both going to play a lot of snaps. But what about you? What do you think of Idris Farouk going into this year?
No, I like Farouk. I think he's a fun player. Haven't obviously seen a ton from him since he's been at Tennessee, so you can't make a grandiose prediction about his season or really, talk about him in that kind of way just because he's still green, still a newer player. But, yeah, I think it's a high ceiling here. And remind me, Chase, if you do remember, on your podcast, I think Farouk was our dark horse to lead the team in picks if he could end up winning the job. Was that who we said?
That's a good question.
I know you obviously mentioned Boo and all that, just like you do with every statistical category. But I think we brought Farouk up in this discussion.
Can Boo lead in touchdown passes? Who says no? No, I think Idris Farouk is. I think part of why we said that is like Will Brooks was a sneaky. Was he number 2 on Tennessee interceptions last year? I want to say he was second.
I mean, it was so close because the numbers weren't. There wasn't a gap between. A huge gap between 1 and 2, and the leader was low. Let's see here. But, yeah, I think Farouk, you mentioned great high school. The opportunity being there is what sticks out the most. When you look at young guys on this defense with opportunity to take a leap, the Jordan Rosses of the world, stuff like that. Farouk has this opportunity in a thinner secondary with the departures via the portal that I think he could have a really good season, and we'll see what happens. To answer your question, Jermod and Brooks were actually tied for the lead with 4 picks a year ago.
And that's part of why I think we threw out Farouk is whoever's in the spot. Turrentine hasn't really been a big interception guy to this point. Ricky Gibson hasn't been that guy. We'll see how many snaps Jalen McMurray is. He kind of that guy. I mean, we do joke about Boo, but if he's going to be on the field as much as we think he is, like it's definitely a possibility that he leads Tennessee in interceptions next year. But whoever's in that safety spot opposite of Turrentine, it wouldn't surprise me if they're right there with the lead in interceptions. He had 5 interceptions his last year at St. Francis. He had 87 tackles, 3 forced fumbles. It's not a bad call there. I think Idris Farouk is very, very interesting. 6 feet, 200 pounds coming in to Tennessee. He was the number 22 overall player coming out of Maryland, number 71 safety in the class. But what we saw from him is he's that kind of guy where he was a 4-star by Rivals at the time. So depending on who you looked at, which recruiting service.
3-star in other outlets, right?
Yes. 3-star in others, but Rivals did have him as a 4. So he's on that bubble. But I do think he is someone that is going to be really, really fascinating to watch this year because I think he has the potential to be that kind of yin and yang to what Andre Turrentine is, where I don't think that's Andre Turrentine's bread and butter, and I think that's kind of what you saw last year when you'd have Jacoby Thomas in there for some snaps, and then you would have Turrentine. Like, you would have guys with different skill sets. Christian Charles, very different skill set than Jacoby Thomas. Like, a lot of versatility, and that's what Tim Banks and Willie Martinez love back there, is they love guys who can do a lot of different things, and I think Farouk, people are going to discount his ability to be a good coverage safety and be someone who could lead Tennessee in picks next year, but he's going to have the opportunity, man. And according to the UT Sports bio page here, his favorite food is chicken and shrimp Alfredo, which is an elite call.
Yeah.
I like that more. That's one of my favorites. I don't know where you were at with Alfredo, but chicken and shrimp Alfredo is top notch.
No, Alfredo is amazing. I make chicken Alfredo with broccoli all the time. Now, I don't actually make it. I just heat it up. It's frozen. Put it in the oven. Wait an hour. Got it. But, yeah.
So this is a frozen meal is what you're saying? Okay.
Buy it at Walmart.
So you didn't make it.
No.
You started that sentence.
Look, man. When I say I make things outside of, like, cooking the burgers on a flat top, I ain't making anything.
That's outrageous. You led that sentence with, I made some shrimp and broccoli Alfredo.
It's just the natural way to say things, I guess, when you're...
Jay and Garrett, should he have led that sentence with, I make shrimp and chicken Alfredo with broccoli, knowing full well it is coming in hot from the frozen meal department?
Well, you still make it.
Yeah.
you buy it and then you make it.
There we go. I stand by my statement now. Thank you, Jay.
If you took out something from a restaurant, no, you didn't make it. But if you take something from the frozen aisle and heat it up, yeah, you made it.
Yeah.
Like I made some popcorn today. Like
yeah, directions say 55 minutes. I heat that up for 54. Little bit of an extra chef twist from old Jackie Sticks over here.
Do you let the beeper go off, or do you get it at the 1 second mark before it goes
1
off?
second mark.
I always do that. I'm really.
Yeah, why would I hear this?
I don't want to hear it. And I also feel like
Unnecessary.
Mission Impossible, like Tom Cruise, where you're like right before the beeper goes off, you get it 1 second, you time it just right. It's a great feeling.
I'm always doing something while I'm waiting for food to heat up. So
you're a beeper guy.
I'm a beeper guy. Yeah.
Oh, Jay's over here beeping for full 50 seconds. He's like, oh, forgot.
I do that with my alarms when I wake up, though. I always try to turn them off.
Oh, are you talking about like you just let the alarm just keep going?
No. Like if I wake up before the alarm starts, I will turn
interesting.
it off. Like,
yeah,
that's
like say your alarm chase is set for 7:30. You wake
That's
up
exactly what it
naturally
is.
at 7:15. You're like, hey, I don't have to listen to the alarm this morning. Turn that off.
No, I'm going back to sleep. I'm not turning my alarms off, but I am going.
Feel good. What if you feel ready to roll?
I am not saying what you're saying is a better idea, but I'm usually pretty cozy. Like I'm a weighted blanket guy. I'm pretty bundled.
Weighted blankets are great. Yeah.
Weighted blankets are great. I have a great pillow that's for good neck comfort. It's a good it's a good pillow.
I just bought a new pillow.
Pillows are underrated, and they become more and more important as you age, Jack. Because when you get if you sleep wrong at 34, if you're in a weird angle or whatever, your whole day is ruined because you're going to be stiff. You're going to be like I had a bad back a couple days ago, and I'm pretty certain it was because I slept weird, and it was just like all day long I was just walking around with a stiff back. So you have to be careful. I have to prioritize my my pillow preferences, but I also will go to bat for a weighted blanket. A good 15-pound weighted blanket will knock you out in a heartbeat, and it's fantastic. Weighted blanket, nice. Seinfeld, nice cool 68, 69 degrees. Thermostat.
That cold? See, I'm like a 72, 73.
72 to sleep?
That's crazy. I don't want to wake up and sweat.
I realize I'm in the vast minority here. Like, no one is like me. I get it, except my mother.
73 to sleep is outrageous.
71 to 73, that range. Definitely not below 70, ever. If I can help it.
Can't do it.
And now my roommates, my senior year of college, were frozen tundra type dudes.
Yes.
All three of them, so I was ruled out. I was overruled, I should say. So it was a 67, 68 pretty much year.
No, we want the frozen tundra. To sleep,
to sleep.
Yes.
Everything else, I like it nice and warm, but like
for sure.
To sleep, I put that at like 63, 64.
No, we're going into polar season here.
Yeah. I kid you not. I literally slept in sweatpants and a hoodie every night. Living with those dudes.
Oh, I think you were about to say in 73 degree weather, and I'm like, Jack, we got to talk. That's not good. That's not good. We'll wrap up hour number 3 right here on The Chase with Jack Foster of Omaha Productions and Rocky Top Insider right here on a Friday. Stick with us. We got Bryce Wright coming in to talk Grizzlies and that big Desmond Bane trade from earlier this week, so we'll dive into more of that and a whole lot more coming up with Bryce right after this. Stick with us. It's The Chase right here on Fan Run Radio, Fox Sports Knoxville, 105.7 FM, 1340 AM. We'll be right back.
Are you tired of trying to squeeze your dental appointments in on your lunch break or before you go to work? Here at Knoxville Smiles, we're all about making going to the dentist easier. That's why we're now open until 7 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays. To take advantage of our new evening hours, make your appointment now at knoxvillesmiles.com or just call us at 865-539-1776. Smile brighter with Knoxville Smiles.
Located in Knoxville's historic Old City, Barley's offers great food, live music, the best draft beer selection in town, and now your new favorite place to watch sports. Their indoor projector is perfect for any weather, and they've revamped their upstairs area with more TVs to take in all of the action. Their menu features hand-battered chicken tenders, juicy burgers, fresh salads, and the tastiest pizza in Knoxville. You can enjoy their happy hour drink specials daily from open until 6 p.m. Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria.
Do you love to gamble? Do you enjoy listening to people talk about gambling? Well, then I have some good news for you. Every weeknight at 6 p.m., you can hear John Reed and William Pattison go over the slate, thanks to our friends at VIP Play. Sports topics aren't always black and white, but on the slate, they are always green. Nothing but trends, angles, and bets to try to make you some money. The Slate, presented by VIP Sports on Fan Run Radio, weeknights from 6 to 7 p.m.
We make it easy to save money. Get access to thousands of discounts on shopping, dining, and travel with the CNB Plus Perks account. It's a powerful new way to save money with roadside assistance, cell phone protection, identity theft protection, and credit monitoring. Banking at CNB has its perks. Call or stop by a branch for more details.
Citizens National Bank. Banking never felt so good.
Member FDIC.
Hey, Pack Rat. Yeah, you. Are you moving cross country and you just don't know who to call? Call us right now. Listen, you've probably seen one of our containers in your neighborhood. But did you know that we can help you move anywhere in the United States? It's real simple. We'll drop a container off at the location you tell us to bring it to. You pack up your valuable possessions at your leisure. They stay safe right in your home. And when you're ready, call us. We'll come and pick up the container and give you a scheduled date of when your furniture and the other possessions will be at your new home. So if you're moving across country or across town, be a Pack Rat. Join the Pack Rat family. Call Pack Rat right now for your free quote. See y'all later, Pack Rats.
Call 800-965-1298. 800-965-1298. 800-965-1298. That's 800-965-1298.
Located in Knoxville's historic Old City, Barley's offers great food, live music, the best draft beer selection in town, and now your new favorite place to watch sports. Their indoor projector is perfect for any weather, and they've revamped their upstairs area with more TVs to take in all of the action. Their menu features hand-battered chicken tenders, juicy burgers, fresh salads, and the tastiest pizza in Knoxville. You can enjoy their happy hour drink specials daily from open until 6 p.m. Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria. Blackford Veterinary Surgery Referral specializes in surgeries not regularly performed by your pet's general veterinarian. They're currently accepting referrals from vets all across the country. With their newly renovated state-of-the-art surgery center and highly trained staff, clients can rely on professional and thorough care. If your vet says that your pet needs surgery or rehab, ask for a referral to Blackford Vet and let them get your best friend back on its feet. Located conveniently in West Knoxville. For more information, visit blackfordvetsurgery.com.
What are you going to do with your old car? You can try selling it, you could junk it, or you can donate it to Heritage for the Blind. Your car will be towed away for free, and your donation is tax deductible. Just call 1-800-639-8620. Heritage for the Blind accepts cars, vans, trucks, and boats. It doesn't matter if your vehicle runs or not. It'll be towed away for free, and you'll be supporting those that need help. Heritage for the Blind is a nonprofit organization that helps the visually impaired live fuller lives. Call right now to donate your car. And as a special thank you for calling, you'll receive a free 3-day vacation voucher to many exciting locations. Call Heritage for the Blind right now. Call 1-800-639-8620. Donating is easy, and your vehicle is towed away for free. Plus, you'll get a free vacation voucher. Call now, 1-800-639-8620. That's 1-800-639-8620.
So Chase, wrapping up hour number 2 right here on Fox Sports Knoxville, Fan Run Radio, 1 to 3, Monday through Friday. Week 3 already in the books here. It's been a fantastic 3 weeks here on the program. Debut month here, right here on Fan Run Radio, Fox Sports Knoxville. And to put a bow on week number 3, we've got another UTK alum, Memphis Grizzlies super fan. He's had a couple days to think about the Desmond Bane trade that rocked the state of Tennessee, especially the west side of Tennessee over there in Memphis. We've got Bryson Wright on the line right now. Bryson, good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. Happy to be on here today. Yeah, it was definitely kind of crazy when it first dropped. I was actually on the road. I was driving from Knoxville to Nashville when the trade dropped, so I actually had my phone on Do Not Disturb, and then when I made it home, I realized I had like 50 or 60 text messages, and I'm not that popular, so I knew something crazy must have happened. So then I saw the trade. It had been probably about 30 minutes since it happened, but it was really kind of insane that first day.
So now that it's happened, you've had a couple days to think about it, Bryson. Do you feel better about the trade? Do you see it from Memphis' standpoint? Do you think Orlando got a steal here and it was worth the picks? Where are you at with the trade 4 days later?
Well, I mean, I think the first thing is Desmond Bane was one of my favorite players. So once I got past the point of, okay, Desmond Bane's not going to be on the team anymore, and just looked at the deal, like objectively the deal is a good deal for the Grizzlies just because of the draft capital. At the position that the Grizzlies have kind of been in, trying to build around Ja, Jaren, and Bane, and then seeing this year that they were still pretty far away from being like a championship contending team based on how they looked versus the Thunder, they kind of knew they had to do something. And just because of how the Grizzlies' contract situation kind of is, the only way they could really do something of note would have been to trade either Ja, Jaren, or Bane. Those are the only three like really substantial contract that they had that they could trade to get something good back. And even with all the stuff with Ja, you're not going to trade him. Jaren only has 2 years on this deal and has an extension coming up, whereas Bane had just signed that big deal, had 4 or 5 years left on that deal still, which means that the Magic probably wanted him because they have control of him for the next 4 seasons as well. And I mean, you get 4 first-round picks, a pick swap, and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and Cole Anthony are like real NBA players. It's not like you just threw in the 15th or 16th dude or a two-way contract type of guy and just to make it work, because I think both of those guys are, if the Grizzlies do keep them, could be a big part of their team next year. So I do think it was a good deal for the Grizzlies, but I do also think it was a good deal for the Magic, because the main thing for their issues this year is they just needed anybody that could make an open jump shot. It is actually insane. They were 30th in three-point percentage this year. They were the worst team in the NBA. So they just needed somebody to play next to Paolo and France that could actually make a three-pointer. And, you know, if that's what you're looking for Bane, he can do that. I mean, he's been a 40+% three-point shooter since he came out of the womb, basically. So if you're asking him to do that, that's easy.
Yeah, Bryson, you touched on it a little bit, but just talking about what the Grizzlies got in this deal, KCP, Cole Anthony, obviously the picks aside from this discussion, but just talking about how the Grizz are going to look next season with those two additions, how do you envision this fitting? How do you envision these players kind of, filing into the Grizzlies rotation here, and what do they provide?
Well, the big question is going to be, are they going to fit into the rotation? Because this is still early in the off season, and it feels like this could be something where they might try to flip some people and try to make a bigger deal. Not necessarily known for who. Some people were saying it would be for like KD, but they kind of came out and said that's not going to be the case. But I mean, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, I mean, he struggled last year, but this is a guy who played for the Lakers and played for the Nuggets and won championships and has proven that he can be a role player on a championship level team. A little bit older now, so maybe won't be getting the same guy that was on the Nuggets a couple of years ago, but still a veteran presence in the locker room and everything like that. And then Cole Anthony, obviously you're not going to look at him to be like the starting point guard because you do have Ja Morant, but one of the things that you know about Ja Morant is he's going to miss probably at least 30 games. Like at this point, that's just kind of how it's been. I don't think he's played more than 60 games in the last 3 years. So having a guy like Cole Anthony along with Scottie Pippen Jr. that can both kind of play point guard if he's not there, also come off the bench and give you good minutes, I think that would help them a lot. So I think that's one of the reasons they're looking at it. But also both of them they are both good enough to where you can try to flip them for better players as well if the opportunity presents itself. And it just kind of gives them a lot more roster flexibility than they had when they had so much money tied up in the big three.
It's interesting now with Memphis because it feels like they're doing a bit of a reset, but they're not doing a rebuild. And I think there are some folks nationally who, and I think Kevin O'Connor of Yahoo Sports tweeted about this week when the trade happened. I want to say it was Kevin, in terms of like maybe they should just do a full-on tear down here and move on from Jaren, move on from Ja. But Jaren, especially, like, he's someone I really like, and he's probably, when you're trying to find like a modern Tim Duncan, the best version of Jaren Jackson is a Tim Duncan type guy. The weird thing about Jaren Jackson to me is the rebounding. Like, that's just never been there with him, and I don't really understand why he's never been that kind of rebounder. But he is still a potentially all NBA player year in, year out if he can stay healthy. The thing with Ja, like you said, it kind of is what it is at this point. But then you look at the stuff around you, you're just like, I don't know. You have a big question mark on what this offense is going to look like around Ja and company next year with the new head coach taking over, and we got to see a little bit of that in the playoffs with them. But when you think about Memphis and the kind of crossroads they're at, does this still feel worthwhile to kind of rebuild around Ja and Jaren and see if you can get one last little bit of juice out of this and see if you can become contenders? Or would you just kind of rip the Band-Aid off and just say, hey, man, great stuff. We love Ja, we love Jaren, we love Bane, but this all is just not going to work?
Yeah, so and I think because of how the NBA is, it's very much what have you done for me lately. But you got to keep in mind the fact that this is the Memphis Grizzlies. This is not the Los Angeles Lakers, where if you trade Ja Morant, you're just going to have people lining up to come play in Memphis that are superstar level players like he is, or even a guy like Jaren. So, I mean, if you do want to do that and do the rebuild, you got to hit on the draft picks. I know there's 2 really good drafts coming up, but what I always say when it comes to, especially like Kevin O'Connor is one of those guys who he is just in love with tanking. He just thinks everybody should tank. So that's another thing. Everybody like that. Nobody who has to watch the team for 82 games is going to say that they want them to tank. Like none of the fans really want to tank, and that's just how it's going to be. I don't think that's the move, just because you've seen that with Ja and Jaren, and they had Bane, but with those two, and I think a competent core kind of around them, that you can be a 50-plus win team year in, year out. And I think with the right tweaks, they can become real championship contenders again. It might not be this season, but when you have guys of that caliber that want to be in Memphis and like the city, and like even this week, Ja coming out against Stephen A. Smith when he was talking about whether or not players even feel safe in Memphis and stuff like that, which was like kind of a crazy conversation that they were having. He comes out and he says, "Oh, I'm going to be in Memphis. The source is me. Like, don't listen to all this other stuff. I'm still going to be here. I want to be here." And when you have a guy like that of his caliber, even with all of the issues that he's had, I think you got to hang on to him at least until his deal's done. I mean, he's got like 3 more years left on this deal, and I think you got to at least ride out with that and see what you can do and do everything you can to try to build the right team around him. And then even with the deal what they traded Bane, they're probably going to have another lottery pick next year too, because one of the picks they got in that deal is probably going to be a top 10 pick, because it's either going to be the Suns pick or the Wizards pick, and both of them are probably going to be really bad. So it's like you can kind of do a little bit of both, of where you don't necessarily have to completely tear the team down, and you can still possibly get one of these really good players coming up in the next couple drafts as well.
Yeah, Bryson, just when we look ahead to the rest of the offseason, it's the offseason already for Memphis, but just as a whole here, what do you think the biggest question is? I know the KD thing feels kind of over with Grizzlies not pursuing, but just quickly here before we get you out of here, what do you think the biggest question is looming for Memphis here in the offseason?
Well, the biggest question is going to be, are Cole Anthony and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope going to be pieces of the team, or are they going to be pieces of a trade? Because I think that's the main thing that you're going to see. I'm leaning towards at least one of them is going to be traded. I would like to see them, maybe even if it's for like a Trey Murphy type of player. Honestly, for like a really out there one, instead of KD, I'd be looking at Devin Booker, see if he wants to get out of there too. Like that's somebody that, because that's what I've heard, that the Suns might be blowing it up, and if they're blowing it up, I'd be making calls to him too. Because I mean, they just got those 5 picks. One of those picks, like I said, is a pick from the Suns that they probably would want back. So that's like a big name I throw out there. Maybe like a Cam Johnson from the Nets or Nicholas Claxton. And then it's going to be, are they going to keep the 16th pick in this draft, or are they going to try to trade that as well? So it's really like you don't necessarily know what all they're going to do just because they have a lot more flexibility now, which is a good thing.
Right.
Because I think like going into this, it was kind of like they didn't have a first-round pick this year. They only had 2 seconds. And just with the way that the contracts were set up, they had like some good players, like some good young players, but since they were drafted in the second round, they're only making like $2 or $3 million. So you can't really use those deals and trades to get somebody real back because you have to make the money work, and that just makes it really hard. So now they have like some real substantial contracts they could use in a deal that they could package with one of their young players to possibly get one of those bigger fish out there. But yeah, I think that's going to be the biggest question of the offseason is what is the big deal? Like, is there going to be a big deal? And if so, what is it going to be?
Devin Booker, Chase, would certainly be a big deal.
That's just one. That's more of a pipe dream, I
Right.
think. But
yeah,
I would love that. I mean, John, Devin Booker together, why not?
There you have it. Bryson Wright making his debut right here on the Chase, UTK alum, Grizzly superfan. Bryson, thank you so much for making the time today. We greatly appreciate it, and we'll have to have you back on again soon.
For sure. Thank you. It was a lot of fun.
There you have it. Bryson Wright wrapping up here on a Friday. Thank you to Rocky Top Insider and Omaha Productions Jack Foster here on a Friday. Thank you to intern Jay King. Thank you to intern Garrett Armbrust. Thank you all, the listeners, for tuning in to Week 3 right here on Fan Run Radio, Fox Sports Knoxville. We'll be back for Week 4 on a Monday with Caleb Giroux of the Daily Times. Drive with Russell Smith and the Bear coming up after this. Y'all come back now.